introduce the meeting. Okay, Laura. Yeah, thank you for introduction the turning today. Here we together with Laura. Please, you can you help me, Laura? Laura, can you hear me? Laura? Please check, Laura. Can you hear me?
I cannot hear you.
Okay.
I'm not sure about the rest. Can everybody hear? Okay, no. It's not only me, but we cannot hear you.
Okay.
Be host.
Okay. Yeah, now the operator is joining, so I'm accepting the operator. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Laura, you can help me now? Still mute. Hello, Laura?
So I will give 1 more minute to people to join the call. And we will make a quickly run introductions from our side.
Laura.
So we can start the session. Yes?
Okay. Yeah. Sudah bisa, Bu? Okay, Laura. Thank you. You hear me? Here? Hello, Laura?
Not really, sorry. We hear some noises. But we cannot hear you properly.
Yes, please check. You hear me?
Maybe you can rejoin the meeting again, like leaving the meeting and then joining again.
Test, Laura, you hear me? Hello?
I'm afraid there are some technical issues. We cannot hear you. We still cannot hear you.
Yeah, the user MOF ID, we don't have any video, and we see that there is sound, but we don't hear anything. But the 365 Pro Plus, we see video and we heard sound before. I don't know if you're in the same room.
Yes, I can hear your voice clearly. Maybe the guest waiting the host to start the meeting after tutorial maybe.
But is anyone still waiting?
There's no one in the lobby, so there's no one waiting. Oh, one more person.
Another.
Yeah.
I guess there was some synchronization problem. Yeah.
Sambil itu, maaf.
Okay. Thank you, Laura. Okay. Thank you. Here,
Okay, so are we ready? I think we can hear you now. Yeah, so as I was saying, my name is Laura Bupa.
Yeah,
I'm
Laura.
part of
okay.
Yeah, yes,
Laura,
sorry.
thank you for joining our program today here. I think together our meeting today, Minister Environment for City Surabaya, and also Excellency Norway Ambassador.
Some echo now. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Together we here. Ibu Siti Nurbaya, Minister Environment and Forestry, Republic of Indonesia, and also Excellency Ambassador Ruth together here. We're very happy to starting our training today. We invite you for introduction the training and also together here your participant for training program also attend in the meeting today. Yeah, please for you starting the program, Laura. Thank you.
Saying my name is Laura Boja. I'm part of Mosburg Satellite Services team, where I'm leader of the NICFI satellite program. I'm here with my colleagues from Planet and Airbus. So let me give quickly a brief introduction. So Luisa is joining us from Planet, Timothy as well from Planet, Grant and Miguel from Planet as well. They are waiting, so not to waste your more time. And from Airbus side, we have Antoine. So we are all here supporting Indonesian users, level 2, the onboarding, this technical session. And we are very glad to see. Sorry? Yeah, so let's try to mute and because we want to raise some questions if possible because we are a lot of people here all together. As I was saying, thank you for your interest. We are looking forward for this technical session today. At the end of the session, for sure, we'll have plenty of time for questions. So you can keep them to the end, or while doing the presentation, you can interact using the chat, raising your hand here in Teams. And today we will focus on the use of Planet and spotted data, and also the use of the graphic user interface. So we will be running a demo. Miguel will be in charge of that. I will highlight that also if not feeling comfortable speaking English or writing the question in English, here Grant, our colleague from Planet, is happy to help you with Indonesian, doing the translation and supporting technically. Also, we are offering you the possibility to record this session if you are happy with that, so you can review the session afterwards, or also sharing with your colleagues that cannot attend today. So if everybody's happy with that, thumbs up, and we will be recording the session. And as said, we will be very happy to answer your questions during the session, but at the same time we will have lots of time, plenty of time as we expect at the end of the session. So if everybody's happy with the recording thing, thumbs up as Luisa is doing, and I will start recording after the introductions. Here today, we will leave the floor to the ministry and the ambassador that we are very excited that they can join today this session. So before starting the technical session, please go ahead.
Thank you, Luisa, dear colleague and friends, Laura and Luisa, and all colleagues and friends, and Excellency Ambassador Ruth. First of all, I would like to convey my appreciation to the Norwegian ambassador and her team, also our colleague from Norway International Climate Forest Initiative NICFI, and Kongsberg Satellite Service team, including Airbus and Planet, for the support of making happen this technical training session on NICFI Satellite Data Program Level 2. The Ministry of Environment and Forestry actually has used satellite image data from the 1990s for National Forest Inventory activities and continued to monitor forest resource intensively since 2000 using medium satellite image data Landsat. The ministry currently using low, medium, high, and very high resolution satellite imagery data to monitor forest resources, monitor land and forest fires, track land rehabilitation project, monitor land conflict resolution, manage critical land, conduct research, etc., all of which can be important factors in the formulation of policies and decisions that are based on geospatial consideration. There is a growing trend at the site level, district, provincial, national, and international level to use and utilize high and very high resolution satellite image data in the management of natural resources, especially forests. This growth is inextricably linked to technology advancement and the increased availability of high and very high resolution satellite imaging data, both paid and unpaid. With 108 million hectares of forest area, there is an increasing and urgent need to make extensive use of high and very high resolution satellite imagery data for various planning, monitoring, management, and evaluation in the environmental and forestry sector. Satellite image analysis is an excellent decision-making tool because it can give facts and information reliably, precisely, ethically, and near real time. With the NICFI Satellite Data Program Level 2, it is intended that the ministry would be able to directly access NICFI data and then use it to strengthen daily tasks. Thank you again for your introductory, Laura. I note that overreaching goal of the NICFI Satellite Data Program is to curb tropical forest loss, combat climate change, preserve biodiversity, and foster sustainable development. In line with that, within the ministry, satellite image data is utilized to meet the specific demand and objective of managing spatial data and information in the environmental and forestry sectors. These data are then disseminated to stakeholders, among others, for a range of spatially based analysis and planning activities, including mapping, monitoring forest resource, land use planning, national and international reporting. High-resolution satellite imagery and ground checks serve as crucial evidence of the ministry across various work programs, particularly those related to monitoring changes in forest cover, managing forest area use and conflicts, watershed management, inland water and mangrove rehabilitation, fire management, investigation of forestry and environmental crimes, land damage management, social forestry, and forest utilization efforts. Up to this moment, Indonesia has been actively pursuing measures to create conducive conditions for achieving of the volume net sink target. The government is in the process of developing carbon governance and trading procedures which are expected to be pivotal in the future. These procedures are being prioritized for immediate completion as part of the enabling condition toward Indonesia volume net sink 2030 target. Nonetheless, challenges persist in implementation due to the diverse array of stakeholders and extensive geographic coverage necessitating intensive vertical and horizontal coordination, and thus remote sensing technology and high-resolution satellite imagery can play a significant role in enhancing forest and land management for climate action. This training is expected, resulting in the development of a technical plan for the use of satellite image data on each directorate. As you have seen here, we are a quite big group in this training as your participants, of supporting infrastructure for the implementation of the use of high-resolution satellite image data, high computer specification, high storage capacity, fast internet, and so on. The training is expected to go well and continue with good discussions. I thank you Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay. A very good morning to colleagues back in Oslo, and a good afternoon to everybody here in Indonesia. Dear Ibu Menteri Siti Nurbaya, dear representatives from Klhk, from Kongsberg, Planet, and from Airbus, and from NICP. So thank you very much for the opportunity to say just a very few words at the beginning of this training session, and just give just a little bit of political context before you dive into the more technical aspects of this training. So Indonesia is at the forefront of global efforts in addressing climate change. Under the leadership of Ibu Menteri Siti Nurbaya, Indonesia has reduced deforestation to a record level, including reduction of emissions from forest fires and peatlands. And this is an achievement which has impressed the whole world, and it could not have been possible without the dedication from the Minister of Environment and Forestry, Siti Nurbaya, and her excellent staff, many of whom are here today, and experts here in Klhk. And I think the fact that the Minister herself joins this session today also says a lot about her dedication to this work and her willingness to motivate her staff. And from the Norwegian Embassy, we are also participating as observers to this meeting. Now, Norway is a proud partner of Indonesia on their work on forest and land use. We hope the access to this new data and technology will support Klhk and Indonesia to achieve the full net sink 2030 targets. But I think it is important to say also that Indonesia has an excellent system and tremendous human resources capacity in forest and land use monitoring already. We believe that free and daily access to the high-resolution satellite imagery will improve these systems and the work even more. And hopefully, this will give new opportunities to Indonesia to detect and respond to forest fires, investigate and prosecute illegal deforestation, and improve monitoring of forest areas and changes, just to mention some examples. And from the Norwegian side, we are very pleased to have excellent colleagues from KSAT, from Planet, and from Airbus with us today, who can give good understanding of the technical aspects on the use of this data. For Norway, supporting tropical forest countries with free access to high-resolution satellite data is very important. And that was why Norway in 2020 made an agreement with KSAT, Planet, and Airbus to provide universal access to high-resolution satellite images for all tropical forest countries. We are also glad that in Dubai last December, Norway and partners announced a continuation for this program for another 4 years. Now I will let you get on with your training. Thank you very much. I wish you all good luck with this collaboration and the training that will follow from this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for these remarks. It's an honor, to be honest, to be part of this NICP satellite data program. So yeah, let's move on to the technical session and wish you a good day. Let's start recording, as said, just for you to then access all the technical solution in case you want to revisit. Okay, I think we are okay. Miguel, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Laura, and good morning, everyone. So I will be guiding you a little bit through the technicalities. Let me just share my screen here. Yeah, again, as mentioned earlier, and moving now into the details here, please really feel free to interrupt myself. I really don't mind, and happy to take your questions anytime. Anyways, we will have enough time at the end to go a little bit more deeper into any aspect that you might think it's relevant for you. I think it's clear, the NICFI program for everybody. I just want to give you a brief description for this technical demonstration. I want to make sure we all leave the room understanding, well, first of all, the program, although I am certain that most of you might know already what NICFI is and what's the objective, of course. I want to give you an understanding on how we use planet data, how we use satellite data to build these NICFI base maps and generate this type of information that can be used to track deforestation worldwide. And we're going to go then into some examples on how to access the imagery by itself. We're going to go into the details on how to download the files and how to have them in softwares where we can use them to run our analysis like QGIS, of course, and as mentioned earlier, we'll have enough time for Q&A at the end. So yeah, just as a very basic overview, NICFI is all about producing information, gathering satellite images, producing those base maps in critical parts of the world where deforestation is driving climate change, and specifically we're focusing the tropical areas. Of course, Indonesia is part of that, and as we just heard from the ministries and the ambassador, well, efforts are very key here. Well, if we go about the details on the data that is being used to generate NICFI base maps, we are using mainly PlanetScope data. PlanetScope data is a constellation that is operated by Planet. It's imagery that provides us with a pixel size of around 3 meters. And by being able to monitor the Earth every day, we are able to produce a monthly base map that allows us to see changes throughout time. Also, for context, we are not only using PlanetScope data, but also we have archive imagery from the Rapid Eye constellation that is nowadays retired, but still the data is valid. And as we will see later from Airbus, we also have, or you will also have access to spot data, much more past in the time, which allows us to do this historical and temporal overview of the progression of deforestation in certain parts of the world. Going into the details of the satellites that are used, in this case, most of the data comes from the Dove satellites. Dove satellites are what form the PlanetScope constellation. They are satellites more or less the size of a shoebox. They are really small. They are just packed with the latest technology in Earth observation that we can fit in this size. It allows us, as I mentioned, to build this very dense constellation of around 180 satellites, which gather information of the Earth every single day. We are capable of imaging the world almost every single day. And this cadence allows us to create and take the best out of each image and produce these space maps that later are forming the NICFI archive. Well, a little bit on the technicalities, in case you, in case you don't know. Those satellites are around, let's say, more or less 500 kilometers up in space. They have a very high capacity, as I mentioned, because we have a lot of them. The pixel size is around, or the ground spatial resolution is around 3.7 meters, and they are carrying multispectral sensors, so we are able to capture the radiation, the reflectance at different parts. And this is really key. You will see some of the products that are available to NICFI. They contain specifically the near-infrared band, which is key to monitor vegetation, as you may know. Not only SuperDove, which is used nowadays to produce the NICFI base maps, but as I mentioned, we are also having the Rapid Eye archive available to us. In this scenario, what we use is this data to cover part of the years that are available to NICFI, and again to produce this seamless temporal series, which allows us to see the evolution of deforestation. So if we go a little bit into the details on what can we access via NICFI, as you know already by the title of this meeting, you will be having access as a level 2 user, which includes what is available for level 1. So I just want you to give, I want to give you a brief understanding of what level 1 is, so you know what's included for you, on top of what you will get as a level 2. So as a level 1, what you will be having access to are those visual mosaics. So literally what you can see on this little picture here. It is a monthly base map that we create by taking the best imagery worldwide, and we tune it so that from a visual perspective, it's very easy to understand. So it has already all the corrections made for this type of applications. It has a spatial resolution of around 4.7 meters per pixel, and the spectral resolution is red, green, and blue. It means that from all the spectral bands that the satellite captures, we take those three ones, we put them together, and we create this visual asset that is already corrected for this visual interpretation. So the color distribution and like from a static perspective, it's easy to interpret. On top of that, level 1 and of course also you as level 2 have access to this analysis-ready surface reflectance mosaic. So what we mean here by surface reflectance is that we take the imagery and we correct for the interference of the atmosphere, right? We know that the sun is illuminating the Earth, the radiation is going back to space, it has to go through the atmosphere, and this causes some noise, let's say, on the data. And usually when we want to do time series analysis, when we want to go into the temporal perspective of analyzing satellite imagery, we need to make sure we remove as much noise as possible. And having the surface reflectance products ready to use available through NICFI, it's actually a great asset, and it's for the ones that are going to be working with the data, it's just a great input. In this case, there's another advantage, and it's that these analysis-ready surface reflectance mosaics, they not only contain the red, green, and blue band, they also contain this near-infrared. Near-infrared is a key band when monitoring vegetation. The vegetation has a very high response in that part of the electromagnetic spectrum. So it allows us to monitor very well vegetation throughout false composites, throughout the spectral indices that are linked to vegetation, etc. We will see later in the demo how we can play with this band and have key information. So that's the type of data we can have as level 1 that you will have. In terms of cadence, how much data you can get, or what's the frequency for that? Well, we are having monthly mosaics. So every month you will get a new delivery, and this archive goes for these monthly base maps from September 2020, and so far, and as we heard, it's going to get extended. But we have this first timeline until September 2024. We also have some biannual mosaics that go even before 2020. So you can see here the temporal line that we can draw to do our analysis. It's almost already a decade. This just gives us great flexibility to understand the phenomenon of deforestation, to see how policies are maybe creating a positive change towards fighting this global problem. As I mentioned, we have the plan scope data, right, from these satellites. Those are this is what is creating those mosaics. However, we also have rapid eye that is covering this year of 2015 to 2016, which allows us to do also these biannual base maps. This is what would be included for level 1, and we will see later how to access that and how to download it and, let's say, get the hands into the data. However, you will be level 2 in this program, which is great because it gives you the full access to the capabilities that NICFI is putting out for the users. And basically, what the advantage that you will gain as a level 2 is not only you will get everything from a level 1 perspective, of course, but you will also get two things that are fundamental. First of all, the access to the actual satellite imagery that is used to produce these base maps. And this is very important. We'll see later why. It means that out of all the if we take the example of Indonesia, out of all the imagery that we collect throughout the month, we put it together and we create a single base map, right? But sometimes it is important to understand from which date a pixel is coming from. Maybe that drives the decision of understanding when the deforestation happened, when the logging activity started, and so on. So tracing back these phenomena, being able to relate that to a specific satellite imagery, to a specific date on time, it gives you just the full flexibility to understand the behavior of deforestation. So as level 2, you will get access to that, to the underlying scenes that are used to create those mosaics. We'll go later into the technicalities of these scenes. And also, I think something very nice is that we you will have the access to the Airbus historical archive. So we have here Antoine from Airbus, who will go into details of that in a couple of slides. But apart from having this extended temporal line that goes back to 2015, taking advantage of the historical archive of Airbus, we can go even more back in time, so even to 22. And this just gives you, a very long archive to navigate and to understand this phenomenon. So that's really great, and it's a great advantage for level 2 users. You can see here on the slide a little bit the technicalities in terms of the pixel size of both imageries, the spectral resolution. But again, as a level 2, you will get basically everything that you can get, and it will allow you to do much more work. So as an overview, and just for later for you to review this slide and understand where you are as a level 2, you can see here the differences in types of access. We are sitting with you in this level. So again, everything that is included in level 1, the visual mosaics, the surface reflectance analysis ready mosaics, of course, the ability to download, to stream those products. The data access is something very important, and we will get to see that. But on top of that, remember, as a level 2, you get access to the images that are used, and also to this extended archive coming from the Spot satellite from Airbus. Going a little bit more into the details here on what it means to work with these mosaics and the technical aspects that we need to consider when we start to work with it. Remember, from the first point of view, we need to understand what's forming those mosaics, what are the input scenes, and from when. So you can see here the details. Something that is key to understand is the spectral resolution, right? The bands that are included in both base maps. The visual one, as the name indicates, is meant to be visualized, and that's why it includes only those red, green, and blue bands that form this true color composition, right? On the other hand, if we want to do some type of vegetation analysis, maybe some of you have already experienced working with NDVI, spectral indices, and so on, this always will need the additional band in the near infrared. So whenever you start working with the data, ask yourself the question: if you want to only see the data, then go for the visual asset. It has been already corrected by us, as you can see here, and it's just meant for that. If you want to do some further analysis with the data, not only seeing it or visualizing it, then already go straight into the analytic product, which contains more details. You can see also the bit depth. This, not to bother here with too much technicalities, but this just gives you the precision at which the satellite is able to understand changes in the target, in this case the forests. So you can see that the analytic product has much more bit depth, so much more precision to detect that. Again, another reason why you should use this product if you really want to do something else apart from seeing the data. Of course, use cases, this I'm sure you know much more than me in terms of how you can use or how you will use the data. And just to finish, 2 points here that are important. The pixel size is always going to be the same for both type of mosaics. They come basically from the same satellite imagery. It's just the fact that we introduce more or less information in one of the products. And as you can see, we do a lot of the pre-processing steps that you might need to do otherwise by yourself. From the point of view of the visual asset, as I mentioned, we do this color balancing, right? You can imagine that when we put together a lot of images from satellites throughout the world, the differences in colors, the differences in the way we stretch that to create a visualization changes a lot. So we do this balancing so that you can get a visualization that is just good to see. It's just corrected for that and ready to use. And I think that's the key thing here. The data is ready to use and to be an input for your applications. On the other hand, the analytic, just remember the story about the atmospheric correction. We do that from our side, so you don't need to worry. And this is just a good advantage. If you have worked with satellite imagery before, doing this is a fundamental step. And the fact that through NICFI we can get that is just removes a lot of the pain that we would have to input the data for this type of applications. Yeah, just going a little bit even more deep into the details of the products, I won't spend here too much time because basically this you can just read on the technical documentation. But again, be aware that through Planet or through PlanetScope, right? This is the constellation we use to take the satellite images. We use a variety of satellites. Those are just different versions, a variety of products to generate that. We've seen already the bit depth and the different corrections that we do. So basically, just for reference, if you want to know more about this later, of course, go for this table. You can also find online, and we will send you the references for the technical details of each specific product that we use to generate those base maps. So this would be for PlanetScope, for the analytic products, basically, and the one that contains this near-infrared band. This would be the case for the visual product, right? We use the visual scenes of Planet, where we only take these 3 bands. So not to repeat myself, I'll just leave you here with these references, and we can come back to them if you have some doubts about it. So yeah, I'm gonna pass it now to Antoine, so he can cover the spot data and give you an understanding of this extended archive that is available through NICFI and to level 2 users. So Antoine, go ahead. I can change the slides.
Thank you very much, Miguel. And I will have just a few words about the spot specific technical aspects. So as Miguel has just mentioned, spot images comes and complements the planet data with an archive depth that is not available with the planet constellations, because there are new ones, and spot is a more older sensor, and there is a quite deep archive available with those sensors. So in the frame of NICFI project, we delivered some spot 5 data, which have been acquired from 2002 to 2012, and which allows to proceed to very interesting and quite long-term monitoring and analysis over the tropical forest, and that's why we are a good complement to the planet data. These images have a resolution set to 5 meters, and there is, in the case of spot 5, spectral combination, which is quite old, because if it's an old sensor, and at this time it was difficult to plan such spatial resolution with lots of spectral combination. So there is only three spectral band available. Green, red, and near. But as just mentioned, Miguel, the red and the near are the most important for the monitoring of the vegetation. There is ways to retrieve the blue band if we wanted to have like a color combination more realistic, such as the one you can see on the screen. But for the monitoring, it's good to check the infrared and the red band mostly. The processing level is auto-rectified, so for stacking of images and comparison of images between years, it's already ready to be used. So maybe you can pass to the next slide. Thank you very much. And regarding spot 6 and 7, it's so the resolution here is 6 meters. In this case, it's a more new sensor. So we have all bands available: red, green, blue, and near. Just like for spot 5. The production size is quite large, so it's pretty interesting dimensions for large area monitoring. And in this case, the archives complement comes from 2012 to 2015, and still the data is available to be stacked and to be used for comparison between years. Also, the geolocalization is accurate enough. The planimetric accuracy is enough to proceed to this stacking and to make comparison between images that have been acquired at different times. So once again, Spot comes in a very complement aspects to the planet data with its archive depth capacity. And for the last slide, Miguel. Yeah, and just I just wanted to make a quick overview of the available spot data over Indonesia. So at this time, there is 600,000 square kilometers that are covered over Indonesia with Spot 5, and 200,000 square kilometers with Spot 6 and 7, including the overlap. This coverage includes the overlaps that we can find between the different acquisitions. And one information that needs to be detailed is that regarding the NICFI project, we will deliver a last production batch of 1,200,000 square kilometers for the project. So probably not all this last coverage will benefit to the Indonesian country, but a lot can be considered for Indonesia. And of course, NICFI program team will be available with Indonesian partners to make the best selection possible for this long-term analysis, and we will be available to make a selection for taking the best benefit of the last spot images to be delivered. So thank you very much, and you can keep on going, Miguel. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks, Antoine, for the details on Spot. And as mentioned, I think it's just great data for level 2 users. You have this long archive, and you can go back and see what's the evolution of deforestation, even the improvements if they have happened. So yeah, this finishes the first part of the session. That's a little bit more theory, right? So we've covered the technicalities of the program, what you can access, and so on. What I want to show you now for the second part is just the real life, right? We need to access the data. How do we do that? What am I going to get? How can I download it? And these type of things. So the first thing I want to show you is Planet Explorer. This is the web interface that you will be using to access satellite imagery and download it locally to your computers so you can run your analysis. So basically, it all goes from a specific website. You all have now a NICFI account, which gives you access to this type of tools. And by just going to planet.com/explorer, we can access this web interface that is just the entry point to Planet data. There are many ways to access satellite imagery from Planet under the NICFI program. I'm going to show you today two of them. The first one is this Explorer. The other one is an integration into QGIS, which I believe is a software that you use commonly in your work. There are other ways like APIs and so on, and we are happy to cover that if you want on another session maybe. Today, because of time, but just for you to be aware there, we are flexible to give you the way you want or the way that fits more to your work. So when accessing satellite imagery, and maybe if this is the first time you're going to do it, it's just a matter of answering where do I want to see the products when do I want to get the images, and what type of image do I get. So if you answer yourself to these three questions, you're gonna be able to find the imagery. Of course, remember, we are imaging from planet the world almost every day. So the archive that we are producing is massive, right? So you can imagine here the task of finding an image of interest can seem a little bit difficult. But again, as I mentioned, where do I want the image, when, and what type of image? That's pretty much it. So if we focus over Indonesia, of course, the first thing I would recommend you to do is just drawing your area of interest, right? Where do you want the image? So to do that, on the right side here, we have a bunch of tools. Some of them are just like your typical Google Maps thing, just to zoom in, zoom out, nothing special about it. We have different layers, right? So we can remove the labels from the map. We can remove the reference image if we want. So just to customize a little bit the experience if you want. There are some basic tools, like for example, measuring distances on the map. So again, for example, that might be useful if you are measuring a specific field that is being deforested, or if you want to do a quick calculation on an area, etc. So this can be done. For example, just to show you here the map. And something that I find very handy when working with this type of things, that we can download the geometry directly from here. If you are working with geospatial software like GIS and so on, being able to download this geometry, in this case as a GeoJSON, which is a specific format, it's just very handy. So you can get that type of thing here. So as I mentioned, the first thing we need to do is just to draw our area of interest, right? So we're gonna use here this little tool that allows us to either upload an area of interest if we have a file, or just draw it with some of the tools that we have here. For example, we can draw a square here, or a rectangle, let's say, and just we just click on it. Well, when we do that, what's going to happen is that the system is going to automatically show us the imagery that is matching this area on the left panel, right? So you saw here how this populated automatically, and those are basically the different images that are intersecting my area of interest. So yeah. As I mentioned, this is the first question, where do I want the image? The second question will be, when do I want it? So as you can imagine, as if you are booking a flight or something like that, we can just put a time range to our search. And by just clicking on the dates, we can look for images, let's say from the beginning of the month, for example, till today. It's really up to you. And we can just click done. And as expected, the system is just gonna give us the images during that time range. That would be the second question, right? So where, when, and now the question would be, what type of imagery do we want? If we go into the details of satellite imagery, the different products and so on, there are many things we can talk here about, but of course it's not the intention to do that right now, but I want to give you a brief overview on how you can answer this question of what type of imagery do I want. So first of all, there are different types of satellites, in this case for planet. You will be having access to PlanetScope, right? So this is the constellation you have, also to Rapid Eye. So by just clicking on the mission, we can filter down the products for only those of these particular satellites. We can then choose different filters, like for example, including this near infrared band or not. Again, if you are looking at the vegetation, you will most of the times want this spectral band. So that's handy, you have it there. And then a bunch of other filters that allow us to select a specific satellite, a specific publishing stage. So if the image is still in the preview stage and so on. Again, don't want to bother you here with the details. It's not relevant for this session. I want you to understand how to get the imagery. And once you get familiar, you can go into these details. We have basically everything linked here. There are two things that I will highlight before moving on. And from the long list of filters that you can see here, there are two that I think are very handy and easy to understand as well. First of all is the area coverage. That means that, for example, if this is our area of interest, we want the result to include images that at least cover my AOI at, let's say, an 80%, right? So I avoid having empty spaces. This is just linked to the fact that we have the satellites orbiting the Earth, right? And depending on the orbits and how they intersect with our AOI, the area will be covered or not, depending on the path of the satellite. So this is just very handy, especially when working with small areas, to ensure that at least the results that you get back from the system are covering by 80% your area and so on. So easy to understand and very handy. The other thing that it's key when working with satellite imagery, or at least with optical systems, meaning with passive sensors that are not transparent to clouds, is the cloud cover. Most of the times you will want to use this to narrow down a little bit the search. If you pay attention here, there are some images that are cloudy, and there's basically nothing we can do about it. Clouds are there, and we need to deal with them. The advantage here of Planet is because we have this, or I mean, the advantage of NICFI being powered by Planet is that because we have many images throughout the month, because we have this daily coverage, we are able to at least select a pixel that might not have clouds and produce these base maps that gives us this understanding of trends in deforestation. So yeah, you will want most of the times to put a cloud cover of, let's say, between 0% and, for example, 30%, right? So at least maximum 30% of the image will be covered by clouds. Again, this is just a way of narrowing down a little bit the search and getting the data that is just fitting in the best way our applications. There are other things, other filters that we can pass here. I will not go into details here because we're going to take a lot of time, but again, we are happy to cover them in detail if you have questions about it, or of course I can point you to the documentation on where this is explained. If you have worked with other satellite products, this might be familiar to you. If not, don't worry, it's nothing complicated here. It's just a matter of understanding what it is. Well, so we have answered the question of where, when, and what type of imagery. So the system, once we define the filters, we can just apply them, and the search is just going to be refined to our needs. Let's take one example here, randomly. Let's say this one. So what we get here, for example, for this particular date, those are the images. We get some key information, for example, the pixel resolution, the area coverage, and so on. We can go here into the next menu, and what this is going to do is it's going to list the different acquisitions and are here available, right? So for example, those are the different, let's say, orbits that the satellite is following and the different acquisitions that the sensor has made, and we can see them here. You see there's a little overlap. There's an area here on the map that's a little bit darker. And this is just because the images are overlapping a little bit with each other, and this allows us to put them together and create those mosaics, right? And just make sure that they are properly aligned. So this is something common. So yeah, just like if you're doing online shopping, and this is pretty much similar, the only thing we need to do is to select the images we want and add them to our cart, and we will be ready to download them. So for example, if you are interested into this one, we can go into the details here and see the different individual acquisitions that are forming our product. So for example, we can go into one by just clicking on this little eye icon, and we can visualize it here. So that would be a first way to understand what's happening. So that's a quick view of the product. Of course, we can do better. We can stream this, we can download the data and have it locally, but at least from a visual perspective, very quickly, we can understand already what's happening and so on. Pay attention here to the fact that even if there are some clouds in the image is still useful. I mean, of course, the areas below the clouds and the shadows might not. But again, don't discard products because they are cloudy. It's just that some areas won't be more or less effective. Again, you are level 2 NICFI users, so you get access to this imagery individually, but also to the mosaics where we put all of them together for the month, and we create this cloudless mosaic for the area of interest for NICFI. So if that would be the image you want, for example, you can just add it into the cart, and now we would be ready to order it. So the process of ordering the image is just a 4-step process, very easy, very intuitive here. We just need to clarify if we want to download this or if we want to host it. I will go into the hosted data after, but let's now assume that you want to get the data, right? So if you are going to be working with these products, at the end, you will want a file in your computer, for example, to have it with you and then move on to your software. So that's what's going to allow that. We can directly download this. can select the format. So if you are familiar with geospatial data, GeoTIFF is just a very common format for this. We can put a name. So we can just Indonesia, or let's do test. You can just put a name for your order to keep track of them. You can select an asset. And so if you remember during my presentation, we were talking about the fact that NICFI imagery or NICFI base maps can be either visual or surface reflectance, right? So in this case, when selecting an image, we can also choose between a visual product or a surface reflectance product, which contains more or less spectral bands. Again, thanks to the fact that you are level 2 users, you have the full flexibility here. And just to summarize here the choice, again, it will be the same scenario. If you're looking to visualize the product, just see it with your eyes and make decisions based on that, just go for the visual product. That's it. If you're looking to do some monitoring of vegetation where you will need to understand what's the spectral response of it throughout time or throughout a particular product, then you will want to use the surface reflectance for bands, which includes the near infrared, or you could also get the D8 bands, which contains all the other spectral bands that are available through the satellite. So it's a matter of choosing which asset you want. Again, all of this is documented and we can go into details, but basically this would be the decision you have to make here. So I'm going to take this one. And now we are almost ready to go. The only thing is we need to finish our order, let's say. So we can clip our image into the area of interest. In this case, the image is fully into the area of interest, so it's going to be clipped. But for example, let's imagine the image was right on the edge. So if we select this option, it's going to be clipped. It's going to be just masked to that size, so we don't get the areas that we are not interested. I mean, you can choose this or not, depending on what you want to do. There are other options to composite the items. This means basically if we have selected several acquisitions, like not only this one, but the ones below and so on, we can put them together so you get a unique file that has already all these products merged together. I mean, this is really the needs of someone that's really working with the data, right? So whenever you start playing with this, you will see these needs as you go on, and you will see how these tools can be already be put into your Planet order. Again, this is just a great advantage for you as level 2 users, because basically you don't need to do that. It's by just selecting this, we will do it from our side, and you'll get the data. Again, when ordering one image, it's really not too useful, but when having at times several images around, then it becomes useful. You can also harmonize the products. This means normalizing the pixel values towards Sentinel-2, which is another mission that's kind of a reference in terms of Earth observation. So it makes your data more comparable with this data. So let's say we want this image and we are ready to go. So we can now just click on order and the process is just going to start. So what's happening now is from our side, from Planet, we are taking this image from our storage. We are applying all the pre-processing steps that are needed, and we are putting it in a way that can be accessed from your side. So what's going to happen is on your email, you will receive a notification whenever the product is ready to be downloaded. And on that email, there will be a link, so you can just click on it and download it. Otherwise, you can come to your Planet Explorer, go to your orders here on the left panel here, and you can just wait until it gets available. It takes some minutes, of course, because there's some pre-processing that needs to happen. Usually the question here is, how long do I need to wait? And the answer is, it depends what you have ordered. If you have ordered one single image, it won't be too long. I would say around 10 minutes or so. It doesn't take that much, 10, 15 minutes. Of course, if we order all of those, then that's going to be a larger order, so it will take us a little bit more time. But yeah, it's not that, it doesn't take days, I would say. So yeah, this would be a first way of accessing the data, in this case, the imagery that is used to create the base maps. And as mentioned on the presentation, not only you have access to this imagery, but also to these spot images available since 2002. The way to access these images Antoine was talking about from Spot and that go way back in time is through Planet Explorer again. There is a specific section here on the left panel that's called hosted data. Hosted data means basically data that we host literally on our site. So it's, let's say, on our cloud, and it is available to you, ready to use. So whenever you log in into Explorer with your account, you can go here and you can see there are different folders, different menus, let's say, for different countries, the way we have arranged this. And if we look and take the example of Indonesia, we can see and we can access here directly this archive of spot images. Those are more recent, or let's say not that old, but as you can see, the images, I mean, the archive just goes way back in time. And just remember this slide from Antoine that was covering the full country. So yeah, we can just take one image from the list, and we can click the little eye icon, and this is gonna show us the imagery in Explorer. I'm just gonna remove here the views, and well, we are basically ready to go. We can visualize the image here, we can download it. A small remark here, the fact that we are looking at the image in this red color is just a reflection of the bands that are available from the satellite. Remember, this is here we can see this is spot 5. So the more recent one is spot 6 and so on. And just remember what Antoine was mentioning. In this case, this satellite had didn't have the blue band, so they are not true color images. What we do are those false color compositions. And the reason why we see this red, in case you are new to Earth observation, let's say with vegetation, is that vegetation, green vegetation, what we see as green with our eyes, has a very high reflectance for the near infrared spectrum, band in the spectrum. And in a practical way, what that means is that whatever is vegetation, whatever is very green, we will see it as very red. And if we use this type of visualizations, it's very handy because, first of all, vegetation gets highlighted very much, but also the contrast that we get with other areas that are not vegetated is also higher, for example, with water or with bare soil, or, for example, with deforestation. If there is deforestation, they're gonna remove the green vegetation, and that's gonna be just very visible, both from a true color, but especially from a false color. That's just why we see this red. So this would be a spot image over Indonesia. From spot 5, if we take an example of spot 6, you see now we get these green colors back. So yeah, again, this just gives you the ability to go back in time and understand, okay, if that was the situation in this area in this year, let's see with the recent NICFI data, how it has evolved, and let's keep monitoring that to see if policies are making changes, if they are being followed or not, and then you can take action as the authority. Well, this is how to see the data. Of course, the spot data, just like planet data, you can download it. And as you can imagine, it's just very intuitive. We can go here in this little button with the three scenes, and we can choose which one we want, right? So by clicking on the little eye icon, we can update the visualization here, and we can just download it. So literally by clicking here on the icon, this is going to generate the download process. And if we just click download, it will just pop up in our downloads folder in your computer. Well, just by following the information, you can also access a little bit more of extra information from the satellite imagery, right? So some additional metadata. Again, if you're new to satellite imagery, don't bother too much about these details. Get used first to accessing the data and visualizing it and working with it. And little by little, you will get to know this particular metadata. There's some descriptions, and of course, we are just happy to go through them if you want. Okay, so we've seen how to access the satellite imagery, the individual scenes, both from Planet and from Spot. But NICFI in the end is about base maps, right? It's about producing this monthly cadence of base maps that give you these monitoring capabilities. So I want to show you how to access that, in this case, not through Explorer, but through an integration. And for that, I'm just going to go quickly back to my slides to talk about the integrations. By the way, for later and for reference, everything that I have explained about how to access the imagery, you have it here with slides. You'll get this presentation, so you can, go back to this later and just follow the step by step. So as I mentioned, we have seen how to access the imagery via the Explorer. I want to show you now how to access the base maps through the integrations. And what we mean by integrations is different plugins that we have attached to specific software that makes easier to access the imagery in a full integrated environment. You might have used ArcGIS, QGIS, maybe Google Earth Engine. Those are just very common softwares for data analysis or geospatial data analysis. And the advantage here is that through the Planet plugin, you can access NICFI data within those environments and have your full processing pipelines, your full analysis in these platforms of your choice, where you may have already other projects running or where it's easier for you to make the data ingestion. So from our side, from Planet, we have the integrations for these softwares that I have mentioned before. I want to give you a brief overview of each of them, and I will do a demo on how to use QGIS to access the data of NICFI, the base maps. Well, this is just a quick overview. Those are basically plugins. If you have worked with these softwares, this might ring a bell to you. Those are just plugins that you can install freely in your software directly. And thanks to your NICFI accounts as level 2, you will be able to do all the work. Some differences here, and I don't want to go through each bullet point here, but there are differences, of course, of what you can do with different ways of accessing the data, right? It's not the same accessing the data through Explorer that I have just shown than doing it through ArcGIS, than QGIS, right? So there are differences between the softwares, and this has an impact on what you can do with the data. So go ahead and have a look. If you have already a software of preference from your side, well, then you might know already this very well. If you're into Google Earth Engine, be aware that NICFI data is already in Google Earth Engine, so you can access it directly, and that's just very handy if you want to do that. So another integration that we support and that's being used a lot for people to consume NICFI base maps. In this case, be aware that for NICFI base maps, we only have the base maps, let's say, in Google Earth Engine, but not the individual imagery. So the individual imagery, you would need to go through a different process to get it to Google Earth Engine. Again, I don't want to bother you here. You might not be interested in that. So if that's not part of your work line, that's okay. If it is and you want to do it, let us know. We can cover that with more detail. Okay. Yeah, just another slide here about Google Earth Engine. Okay, so let me show you how to do it actually in QGIS. Let me pop it here. So for those of you that might not be familiar with QGIS, this is just an open source GIS software, just like ArcGIS, but open source basically, with slightly different capabilities, but again, similar things that we can do. So what we are going to do here is to use the Planet plugin. This is a plugin that you can install as any other plugin in QGIS. So you can go to plugins, manage and install, and if you just look for Planet, it will appear and you can just install it. It takes 2 seconds. Once you have it, it's going to show up here, and basically you just need to log in with your NICFI account, which is basically linked to Planet, so we know who you are. So I'm gonna add a world map here, just to do our work, and not sure if that's a question or I think it's yeah. If you have any questions, go ahead. Okay, so just to move on, we have the plugin. Those are my credentials, so I'm just gonna sign in. And once you are in, there are 2 things that you can do. First of all, you can access the imagery, right? Just the same way I've shown you in Explorer, there is an equivalent of that process through this plugin. I won't cover this now because it just follows a very similar approach. And remember those questions of where, when, and what. So that's basically the same thing you need to answer here. The only difference is that you input your answers to those questions in a different way, right? So there's not a web interface, but a GIS software. I'm going to show you the base maps because in the end, with NICFI as level 2, you also, of course, get that, not only the imagery. And basically, when we are in the base maps section, there's basically one thing that you can choose. I mean, two things here. We are in the series. Again, remember, NICFI data produces a base map every single month. So this creates a series through time. It is a monthly series in this case, so 1 month. And here we have the different options to select the base map. And this is the key thing here. Remember, we were talking about the analytic base maps and the visual base map. You know already the difference between those two. Visual, literally for visualization, analytic for analysis. So I think the name says everything, but just again to highlight that. I'm going to go for the analytic. Following the analytic and visual keyword, what we have is the biannual or the monthly monitoring. In this case, the biannual just goes back in time. Those are base maps that were produced between 15th and 16th of the year. And the monthly is just this monthly cadence that has been generated since then. We also have the same thing for the visual. The name here, by the way, PS stands for PlanetScope. That's the constellation, the satellite constellation we are using. Tropical just makes reference, let's say it's like a keyword for us for NICFI. It is normalized, meaning it has all these corrections for atmospheric noise and so on. So it is an analytic normalized product. This would be the visual and then the cadence. So I'm going to go for the monthly. And whenever we select that, what's going to happen is that on this section here, we're going to get the different months, right? So we have December, November 2023, and we can just go back much more back in time, right? So this is up to September 2020, but we can even go, if we just select all, if we extend the list, we'll get all. So I'm going to show you how easy it is to see the data. In this case, I'm going to show you two alternatives. One is to stream the data, and the other one is to download the data. We're going to see the differences. So let's say, for example, we take the month of January. We're going to select this from the list, and December, November, October, for example, these 4 months. If you click here on the little this icon, we can zoom to the extent. Of course, the extent of those maps is just worldwide, so that's why we are zoom out here on the world map. And what we can do now is we're going to explore it. So I'm just going to click on this little button, and automatically what's going to happen here, I'm going to narrow down this a little bit, or just like that maybe. What's going to happen is that the data gets added to our QGIS session. And by the way, the same thing would happen in ArcGIS if you are more familiar with that. So what we are doing from a technical perspective, let's say, we are streaming the data. We are just sending it through the internet to your QGIS session, and we get the full product. So this is the global NICFI base map. In this case, it is the normalized analytic monthly for the month of October 2023. We have a very handy timeline here, so we can just jump into the next month, November, December, and January. And those are basically the selections. You can imagine, you can basically select all of those and build this timeline for the full time series that is available through NICFI, and just have a very powerful and tool to see change through time. So if we focus over Indonesia somewhere, I mean, this is just the full data, right? So it is not downgraded. We have just the full pixel size. So we can just zoom in. Of course, if you are zoom out, the image is going to look a little bit more blurry. As we approach, we can start to see the detail in terms of pixel size that is captured by this satellite constellation. And you can see that we can literally monitor deforestation at the field level. It is, and this is just thanks to the characteristics of the data. We can move around, and of course, as we are streaming the data, you see that as I move, the data is being loaded, and I can just navigate the data. And remember, this is not your regular base map like you would have in Google Maps, for example. This is updated information. This is the key thing from NICFI. This is updated information, in this case of imagery that was collected only during the month of October 2023. So this gives you this time frame of reference, so you can know what happened and when did it happen. And of course, this is spatial data, so we can just put a location to that. Well, something that's also very nice from this plugin is that we can take full advantage of the data. And by that, I mean that we can utilize all these spectral bands that are included. You remember that NICFI data gives you not only the visual assets, but this analytic one. Well, the analytic has this additional near-infrared band. And by using the plugin, it's very handy, because if we go here into this processing option, we're gonna have this list, and what we can have here are different processing levels that we from Pliant have already applied to the data, so it's ready to use for you. What we are looking at here is this RGB. This stands for red, green, and blue. It means it is a true color composition. It means that we are putting the spectral information in the same way our eyes can understand colors. And this is what, if you are in space, this is what you would see in this way. We can also do this color infrared like that. Oh, I believe this is fading from my, just a second. Let me just, I think I had an issue this morning. Let me just restart here very quickly. Sorry for that. It's always, when there is a demo, it always happens. Okay. There we go. And I'm just repeating the same steps, just a bit quicker. And then okay, so something might be failing maybe with my internet here. Yeah, I'll try to fix it maybe during the Q&A, and I'll show you. But basically what this happens, what this would do is it would show us these different processing levels, like the color infrared, like this red image that we were seeing before, right, where we had this additional band. Again, those are different ways of visualizing the data, and it just gives you, it removes work from your side, basically. Typically, if one is analyzing data, you would want to do some color infrared visualization. You would want to do some NDVI, which is a spectral index used to monitor vegetation. And thanks to NICFI, since we have a long time series, then we can just see that through time. So again, those are typical processing steps that are done by the user. In this case, and through NICFI and the benchmark, you get that ready. So it's literally ready to use for your applications. It's just a matter of knowing what you want to achieve and going for that. So this would be the way to stream the data. And streaming means that we get the full NICFI base map, right? We get it for, I mean, we are zooming into Indonesia, but I mean, it's not the case here, but we could go anywhere where the data is available. Typically, what can happen as well is that you want to download the data, because this is just a visualization of it. We're just seeing it here. We don't have this file with us in our computer. And sometimes you will want to download that to have it with you and maybe execute it in another software or for your own analytical purposes and so on. So what you would do, or the follow-up to this would be to download the data. And if we come back to the plugin here, you see there is a little button at the lower right corner that's called Order. And what's going to do is basically order those base maps that we have selected here on the list. Let's take the example of these 4, and let's see how we do it. So if we want to download those 4 base maps, we're going to get prompted with this menu here that is telling us 3 things, right? First of all, if we want to download the full base map, this. If we want to download a specific quad, I'm going to come back to this concept now, or if we want to do a streaming connection. So first of all, downloading complete basemap. I would say this is not recommended, and I'll tell you why. The reason is because the size of the files are just going to be too large. Remembering here, we are covering the Earth. I mean, it's a global base map. So we start to download the actual files worldwide. It's just going to be too large. It's going to probably be an issue in your computers in terms of storage capacity and processing capacity. So usually that's not what you would want to do. You will be interested in an area of interest always. And that's where the second option comes in place. The streaming connection, by the way, is just to create a connection towards another server in case, for example, you want to embed this into your own geospatial application. Maybe you have your own portals and so on, and you want this as a layer there, so you can stream that from here. So let's come into the use case where we want to download, for example, a specific quad. A quad, what we call a quad is a division of the global base map. So if you look at the global base map, it is just worldwide. What we have done from our side is we have divided it into little sections that we call quads. So as a user, when you want to download it, you need to identify which is the subsection of the map that is intersecting with your area of interest. So let's see how it would go. We're going to select this option. We're going to click on next, and now we're going to draw. Identify our area of interest. And this is just very easy to do. Just like in Explorer, we have a bunch of options here. For example, we can use the extent of the current map here, just like that. So we can create the area of interest like that. We can also draw it manually. So for example, if we click here, we can create a polygon. I mean, this might be too big, but okay. Just like that. So this is our area of interest. We can also upload a specific file in case you have a geospatial file like a JSON or a shapefile. You can select that as your area of interest. Maybe you have a polygon that you as authority know that you want to monitor, so you can use that as reference, or you can actually upload that as a vector layer into your GIS session. Again, different ways to do the same thing, just different ways for you to have flexibility and achieve that. So I'm going to create a rectangle. Let's say we want to monitor this area, and that's going to be our area of interest. And what we're going to do now is we're going to ask the system which are the quads, which are the subdivisions of the NICFI base map that are intersecting with my area of interest. So it's going to happen, it's going to do its work, and it's going to tell us, well, those are the sections. And this is how we divide the NICFI base maps, right? Worldwide, we create these quads, these big squares, let's say. And you as a user, whenever you want to download the base map, you'll try to find that. So what we're going to do now is for every single month that we have selected in our time series, we are going to download the 6 squads that are matching or intersecting with this polygon that we have drawn. A little advice here, I would say. If your area of interest, for example, instead of just going all the way here, imagine it would go slightly after the quad, just a little bit to the right of the border. I would recommend personally to change a little bit your area of interest, so to avoid downloading a full quad where your only interest is just on a tiny section. The reason for that is, especially if you go long-term, especially if you're going to deal with a lot of data, you want to reduce the data volume as much as possible, because it's just going to be easier for your computers, for your servers to handle data. So yeah, I mean, if possible, and of course it's not mandatory. So the system here is just telling us the list of quads. They all follow a specific name, which you don't need to worry about. But yeah, each one has a specific name, and that's it. So those would be the ones for October, and then November, December, and so on. Well, if that's your selection, we can just go to next and create an order. So we put a name, and we can just submit it, right? So this is the summary of it. We submit it, and that's it. So now what's happening is the order is getting ready, and we can see its status on the status panel. which is linked here, so you don't need to look for it. If you just click on it, it's going to appear in your QGIS session, and we can see, well, the one that I've placed right now. It is here. That's the identification that would be handy to know, and we can just download it, and that's going to start the download process. Nothing special. It's just going to run the process. And once it's ready, it will be you will find the data. You can see here, by the way, the progress. You will find the data in the dedicated folder where QGIS downloads the files. If you don't know where that is, you can just use this little icon that will appear here. Yeah, for example, right? There is this open order folder. If you click on it, it's just gonna go to the path where QGIS is downloading things. I mean, this is more QGIS related, but basically, if we go into the folder, well, we just start to find here the data. Okay, so we have seen how to stream the data, how to see it. We've checked how to download the specific quads, well, at this moment, I would say I would like to maybe open the floor for questions if there are. Just looking at the time, because this is more or less the end of the demo. We've seen how to find the imagery, how to download the data, what is NICFI, and so on. And maybe during the Q&A, we can try this to show you as it failed before. So yeah, maybe back to you, Laura, for the Q&A. Otherwise, I can just show a couple of things.
Thank you very much, Miguel. Very useful, hope for everybody as well. Okay, I see we have one question here from Andy Fans. Yes, please go ahead.
Check. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. So I have several questions about the system. The first is, for example, if we more than one person access the same account, will be there problems when downloading simultaneously at the same time? And the second question is about the quota. So as we know in Indonesia NICFI access, there are around 174 scenes of spots available from year 2002 to 2016. So when we download the image, will it also reduce the quota? Although in the user management window, is only showing the daily scene quota and best map quota. And my last question is, can we still acquire the access to download daily scenes until the end of 2024? Even though the NICFI will end in September 2024, including the best map will be probably end into September 2024. Thank you. That's all my question.
Thank you very much. Miguel, do you want to cover those three questions?
Yeah, and Luisa and Timothy, who know also very well these details, please go ahead if you know. Trying to remember
First question. Yeah, sorry. First question was related to different users accessing at the same time and see if there's any crash.
Yeah, so basically the access to data is going to be driven by your NICFI account and Planet, and overall going into the last step, this is driven by your API key. So I don't think there are issues of several users accessing with the same account. There are some user limitations. I mean, there are some service limitations. For example, you cannot place X amount of orders per second and so on. But I think it will be hard to reach those service limitations in our normal case. Apart from that, in that sense, I don't think there is a problem. Timothy, Luisa, any comments here?
Yeah. So regarding concurrent use of the account, like if I understood the question correctly, the only issue is obviously at one point you will probably reach the limits. Like if you're placing an order, there's let's say 500 assets per order. That is the upper limit. So you may end up having to wait a little bit longer if you're operating with several people. But we also have the possibility to use APIs anyway, so that you don't have to necessarily use the GUI to do very heavy lifting type of work. So that should not be an issue. I think the other question, somebody would have to probably remind me.
Yes, the second question was about the quota and if there's any limit accessing the 100 and I cannot remember the number. But if there's any limit in the quota, I think I know the answer, but yeah, Miguel, go ahead.
No, please, Laura, go ahead. Yeah, just to remind Timothy, that was about the spot data and I mean, yeah, the download quota of the scenes and so on. But yeah, Laura, go ahead.
I will say there's no limit. If users reach that limit, because the system has that automatically kind of set up that way, you can easily contact us and we will give you access to more quota. So in that sense, I will say there's no limit. And then the third question was related to accessing the data, even though the program ends in September 2024, if users can access that data until December 2024. Is that correct? The third question, I think it was.
Yeah, I think it was in that direction, yeah.
Yeah, I can take that.
Yeah, thank you, Timothy.
Yeah, so for the data that you download, you can continue using it after the program end, at least this phase. What is likely not to happen if the program is not extended is then that you will not have access to Planet Explorer and all the other tools that we are using to access the system with. But the data that you download, that can continue being used. So I'm thinking that maybe the question is related to, can I reference this data in a future report or something of the sort? So you can keep the data. There's no question about it because it comes with a perpetual license.
Exactly. Thank you, Timothy. Hope our answers are clear. We have one more question from Eric.
Thank you for the presentation and explanation how to access and download the data. I'm not the expert related to the remote sensing data, but I have a very simple question. The first one is, we have the limited time to access and download the data, but we want, suppose we would like to download the data all over Indonesia. My question is, how big the files, yeah, and how many capacity we have to store all the data. And the second one is give us some advice or tip and trick and strategy how to download all the data as soon as possible. Okay, something like that. Thank you.
Yeah. So the best, I'm finding the answer right now of what you said. Yes, it is possible. Yes, it can be done automatically, and that would be by using programming. So, right, using the APIs. We are happy to arrange a session on that if needed to show you how to do it. That's not a problem. So yeah, we would basically ask or query the system to tell us which are the quads, which are those subdivisions of the map that are intersecting with Indonesia. We would say, okay, we want all of those since the beginning of the program, and we need to set there a download process, iterative one. It can take a while, but it's doable. And in terms of size, I'm trying to find here the mega. I think each quad is around, let me see. Each quad I see here, I have one is around 120 megabytes per quad. I'm not sure exactly how many quads are covering Indonesia, but you can expect a large archive because Indonesia is large. So yeah, it will be a big storage capacity. Maybe terabytes. We're talking even more, I would say, because we need to go through the years. So yeah.
yeah, maybe that's something we can figure out later and come back to you about more or less approximately the number of that capacity store needed. Because as Miguel is saying, it's huge, the number of scenes and all the acquisitions over Indonesia along the program, and of course before the program started is quite a lot.
But just Laura, just to finish the answer here, there's no doubt this needs to be done with programming. Potentially you can do it with the GUIs, but it's going to be very, very much time consuming. So by using a little bit of code, we can automatize that process and get the data completely.
Okay.
How about the trick and strategy, the best way to download the data as quick as possible, something like that?
Yeah. So what I would do is take the area of interest, so the polygon of Indonesia, let's say, the official one from your side. I would do a query to find the quad IDs. So which are the quads, the ID of each quads. I will create a huge list of those quads, and I will go one by one downloading with code, with Python, right? That would be a little Python script that would just do the work. And you should think, where are you going to store this? Is it going to be saved locally in a computer, in a server? Is it going to be saved in the cloud, in a cloud bucket? So those are questions that I would ask you so that we can fine tune the script.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Happy to follow.
Yeah. Sorry, I see there's 2 questions from Eva in the chat. One says, can we access the data using the same account from 2 different devices at the same time?
I don't know if Timothy wants to take this one, or should I go?
I can. Thank you, Miguel. So it's the same question. So yes, that's possible.
Okay.
But remember, the limits are there. So obviously, you probably want to keep the account working in the designed state, which is like one person at a time. So you don't want to necessarily have bad experience or kind of unintended slowness or any other type of effects that could come because the account is loaded with several people at the same time. In that case, that's where we should follow what Miguel is saying, which is we should switch to the APIs which support parallel use. And we would be available, obviously, to provide you with a training that would enable your team to use the programming methods for this type of access.
Okay,
I
thank
hope
you.
that clarifies the question, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very clear. Thank you, Timothy. So moving to the next question from Eva, if there's no available data in your collection, can we ask for the specific data certain area? I think I can leave that to Miguel, if you're happy with that.
Yeah, sure. What do you mean there's no available data? So with NICFI, we will get the monthly base map. That's for sure. That's going to happen. And for that to happen, there's going to be a lot of acquisitions every day within that month that are used to create this base map. So data will be there for sure until the program runs. That's for sure. So maybe I'm missing something. Go ahead, please, and clarify the question if needed.
My answer will be the same, because the program with Planet data, it's covering continuously the landmass, right? And there will be data available over the area of interest from 30 degrees north to 30 degrees south, all over the tropical forest. Maybe Eva is referring to spots data. Not sure. And if that's the case, yes, that's possible. Yeah, okay, yeah, spot data. So yes, answering to your question, yes, that's possible. So maybe Luisa or Timothy can answer that, or also Antoine.
Yes, I've been trying to use the API to download the spot data quite easily. So it's exactly the same as what mentioned Miguel with the planet data. We need to write a script to use this API and to download all the data quite easily. But it's not very complicated implementation. So yeah, no problem for this.
Yeah, but the case if there's no data available over their area of interest, I think the question was more related like, can we access the data? Can we request data over that area? And I would say the answer is yes.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So
yeah, sure. Yeah. Sorry for this. You are right. We as mentioned during the presentation, there is a last batch of spot images to be produced in the frame of NICFI project during this year, so before the end of the project, and of course Indonesia is a highlight of the places to be covered. So if there is some place that needs to be covered with spot, please take contact with the program team, and we'll check how to fulfill this last coverage batch.
Exactly. And Eva, if you're referring to archive data, there's this program, KNES, that give access of spot data from spot 1 to 5 available into the archive. So we can share those details as well, together with the material presented here and this session. Okay, Irene.
Yeah, thank you. I want to ask Miguel. Previously, we learned that Planet also have the tasking satellite that we can release when we want to follow up on something on the ground or the sea. Is it possible through NICFI also we can access to that tasking satellite? Because for the law enforcement, it is quite useful for to catch the perpetrators red-handedly. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question. And just for a bit of context for the rest, SkySat is the very high resolution constellation of Planet, which gives you this pixel size of less than a meter. In order to access SkySat data through NICFI, maybe Luisa, Timothy, go ahead. I would say I don't think it's part of NICFI, but they will maybe have more details on that.
Yeah, thanks, Miguel. So SkySat is not part of the NICFI program. I think that was the question, and that's the short answer. The long answer is that if you have the needs, we can always discuss, and we have a local team in Indonesia, I believe, that can support you with how to access that particular data set based on your needs. We normally sell it at maybe a package that you can use in a flexible way, and it would be a good complement for the NICFI data that you're getting through the program. I think it's the same situation with Airbus data from, let's say, Pleiades, or which you might know. Antoine, do you want to add something?
You're muted.
You're muted.
No, thank you, Timothy. Nothing to add.
Okay, thank you. We have another question from Riva. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Laura and Miguel. So I just watched the presentation made by Miguel. It's in his presentation also include the Sentinel and also the Landsat 8, if I'm not mistaken. So uh, do you mean that using this web explorer, we can also download the Sentinel and also the Landsat, just like also the Mosaic, also the Scene? I'm not sure, but I don't see the Landsat 9, only Landsat 8. So how is it? And also, I just wonder, because you mentioned about you have only 600 square kilometer of the spot 5, and also spot 6 and 7 about the 200 square kilometers. It's maybe about 2 million. From our territory, we have 187 million hectares. So what are the criteria that we only can get that data? Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Antoine, if you
for
want,
the
and
question.
I'll cover the other part after.
The selection of the spot images have been done during the first years of the project, and it was a collaboration from the program team and the NICFI users, and it have been selected according to the needs of identified users. So it does not cover all the Indonesia, and it has also a time consistent, which is related to the users identified. So now there is a last batch to be produced, which will be 1.2 million square kilometers, and if you have needs to be expressed and to be detailed, please come to us, and we will make the right selection with you according to the already available data and your needs that are not covered yet, if it's okay for you.
Thank you, Antoine.
Yeah, so just, and thanks, Antoine. And just to cover the first part of the section, yes, you can get Sentinel-2 and Landsat data through Planet Explorer. Let me just quickly, very quickly, take the demo on that. Basically, when we look at an area, right? So we said, okay, let's look for data in a section. We can pass filters, and in these filters, I mean, you can see here the SkySat. This is not part of NICFI, but very well seen. You can also select Sentinel-2 and Landsat 8. So those data sets are available through the Planet Explorer. So you can, within this within this web interface, you can also get that. Yes, there is not the archive for Landsat 9. It's not available here. So only Landsat 8. That's for sure. And the process would be the same, right? So we would just remove, for example, PlanetScope data, just apply our filters, and it would load the data. I don't think I put any dates here. Oh, yeah. Well, maybe I did something wrong here on the search, but yeah, basically it just works the same way. So no problem. It's very smooth.
All right, thank you both. Is there any other question? I'm a bit concerned about time. Please feel free to ask any questions, taking advantage of this session. Anyone? Okay, so maybe, not sure if one of my colleagues want to add any further notes before finishing the session.
I think, Laura, we will send the presentation, right? Didn't, I mean, just for you to know, the presentation has, let me just share here the screen again. You will get, just for you to know, there is a bunch of documentation that's linked, so no worries. Everything that we have explained is somehow reflected in this content, and I think you also get the support email, so happy to get that. And as I said, I think you'll get a copy of this, so no worries, you'll get all the details.
Yes, thank you very much. I think Luisa shared the email address also here in the chat. I just make another reminder in the chat. So if there's any further questions that comes after playing a little bit with downloading the data or getting into Planet Explorer and so on, please just feel free, contact us. We will be very happy to support you. Hope you find this session useful. It was very nice to meet you and kind of an honor having all this technical session, but also together with the introduction. And okay, I think we can leave it here if there's no more questions. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye. Have a
Wish
good
you
day.
a nice afternoon. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Terima kasih.
Bapak Ibu nanti ada briefing dulu sebentar ya dari IPSDH, silakan. Sambil aja. Karena dia nentuin kapan waktunya juga. Kalau saya sebelum puasa, berpuasa.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat sore teman-teman. Jadi pertama license ini license untuk KLHK diberikan untuk 12 satker untuk nanti digunakan untuk keperluan KLHK. Terus kemudian sesuai arahan nanti sepertinya memang harus di-download semua, tapi nanti kita masih harus konsolidasi dengan teman-teman Pusdatin terkait ketersediaan storage dan macam-macam itu. Dari paparan tadi mungkin kita mulai hitung-hitungan nih kira-kira seperti apa. Dana ya nanti ada PPI dan macam-macam kan, belum tahu nanti seperti apa, tapi kemudian karena ada kuota, itu kita harus pikirkan dengan kuota 12 ini kira-kira download untuk semua Indonesia itu strateginya seperti apa? Apa kira-kira cukup dengan satu user account cukup, berarti aman, yang teman-teman yang lain bisa lebih leluasa. Tapi kalau nanti dari hitung-hitungan itu kira-kira nggak cukup, nanti kita harus atur kira-kira itu. Jadi nanti akan ada tindak lanjutnya, mungkin tim teknis saja kita nanti hitung-hitungan kira-kira gitu. Kalau ada masukan nanti kan masih ada grup ya, nanti kita bisa diskusi di situ. Terus kemudian nanti yang di-download apa. Terus kemudian untuk sekarang sampai nanti kita sepakat itu kami pikir untuk uji coba download silahkan, untuk keperluan yang mendesak untuk download juga silahkan. Namun misalnya untuk download mosaik dan segala macam, tolong untuk menginformasikan sehingga tidak double. Kan mosaik kan nanti sama aja ya. Ya, yang base map itu kan sama aja. Kalau bisa nanti downloadnya satu aja, karena kita belum tahu hitung-hitungannya nanti kita tuh untuk download seluruh Indonesia dengan sekian banyak itu perlu ke 12 user dengan kuota tadi, atau cukup satu, ini belum dihitung secara pasti. Jadi kira-kira demikian. Izin Pak Karo, Pak Direktur, untuk pertemuan selanjutnya masih menunggu nanti Pak ya.
Iya.
Karena nanti kan masih ada sesi 2.
Sesi 3 terakhir.
Sesi 3.
Hari ini kan sesi 1 dan 2.
Jadi nanti mohon ditunggu informasinya dari Biro KLN yang komunikasi dengan tim NIKWI. Kemudian formatnya bisa seperti ini atau nanti online dari masing-masing, itu nanti kita belum pastikan ya Pak Karung ya. Kira-kira demikian, kurang lebihnya mohon maaf, saya kembalikan Pak Karo.
Terima kasih Pak. Nanti untuk training berikutnya kita usulkan sekarang kan di Senin ya. Kita usulkan di minggu depan gitu, sekitar tanggal 21 atau 22 Februari lah gitu kan. Ya, 21 ya. Rebo atau Kamis lah gitu kan ya. Cukup kan ya? Kita usulkan ke mereka gitu. Ya, terima kasih. Nggak ada pertanyaan Bapak Ibu sekalian? Silakan. Jadi agar dimaksimalkan di grup yang sudah ada, nanti dari IPSDH ini ada Pak Erik, Pak Ripa, Pak Judin gitu kan, yang akan secara teknis membantu teman-teman semua gitu kan. Kalau ada hal-hal yang akan dibahas, kemudian ditanyakan, silakan nanti disampaikan di grup gitu kan ya, gitu. Wah, ada makanan ya? Makan malam? Wah, ini ada makan malam, silakan. Ini apa ya? Iya. Jadi Bapak sekalian kita rencanakan minggu depan, gitu kan. Kami akan komunikasi dulu dengan pihak Kisat, gitu kan. Kita coba kalau di minggu depan paling melesetnya mudah-mudahan selamatnya di Kemis lah atau sebelumnya, gitu kan.
Pak Karo.
Ya, silakan.
Pak, izin Pak. Nanti saya saran Pak, kalau misalkan nanti pertemuan selanjutnya, mungkin yang ada di ruangan ini kita batasin Pak, karena apa tadi kita juga melihat kan, apa kendala teknisnya kan agak nge-lag atau segala macam. Jadi mungkin yang lain akan mengikuti dari tempat unit kerja masing-masing, kan itu akan lebih fokus lagi, akan lebih baik lagi buat teman-teman juga. Jadi bisa begitu. Jadi di sini nanti terbatas, nanti tergantung lah tim teknisnya seperti apa nanti. Begitu aja Pak. Soalnya tadi kan agak putus-putus gitu kan, kita juga agak kendala begitu juga kayaknya rasanya kurang ini. Iya, nanti di mix aja kalau misalkan itu.
Terima kasih Mas Irwan. Ada lagi yang lain?
Izin Pak.
Ya.
Izin Pak. Iya. Menurut saya sebenarnya kalau untuk yang seperti ini itu lebih pas offline, karena begitu ada timbul kendala, ada yang sudah berpengalaman itu akan bisa langsung di assisting sebenarnya gitu. Karena misalnya kan kalau secara online tuh kita lihat tuh, misalnya taruhlah kayak tadi ya, kita ngelihatnya kayak kurang pas gitu, tapi kan kita nggak bisa minta bantuan, mungkin kayak misalnya saya tadi satu deret sama yang sudah berpengalaman itu akan lebih mudah gitu, jadi dia akan bisa mengajari langsung. Jadi sebenarnya memang kalau yang seperti ini pelatihan JS menurut saya lebih pas itu offline gitu. Terus sama kira-kira kapan storage-nya bisa disediakan yang banyak dari Pusdatin, itu aja. Thank you.
Kalau itu gini, mungkin bisa di ini Pak, izin nanggapin ya Pak. Mungkin bisa di mix Mbak, maksud saya ini kan kita kendala jaringannya kan juga agak ada gitu kan ya, maksudnya tadi kan kita bisa melihat sendiri ya langsung ya gitu. Maksudnya nanti pas ketika pelatihan nggak semuanya memakai wifi yang akses yang sama gitu, jadi ada satu orang nanti dikerubutin satu perangkat dikerubutin 2 atau 3 orang kan gitu, itu kan bisa kita mix seperti itu. Dan kalau storage ya kita tunggu dari tim Mas Judin. Kan ada perhitungannya nanti kan seperti apa. Nanti kan tadi kan udah terlihat kira-kira kita ngambil satu potongan itu berapanya. Nanti untuk satu Indonesia dari 174 SIM itu kira-kira dibutuhkan storage berapa, nanti kan bisa baru kita perhitungkan kan gitu.
Ini hitungannya yang full high res ya? Maksudnya yang high resnya lebih tinggi gitu. Apa yang high resnya yang kayak Sentinel kan udah yang lebih bawah lagi kan? Soalnya kalau saya lihat kalau yang itunya 1 meter itu lebih tinggi loh itunya. Berarti lebih banyak penyimpanannya. Kalau Sentinel sih biasa-biasa aja lah. Iya, banyak banget itu. Dan saya kayaknya nggak tahu juga nih.
Ya, terima kasih. Jika tidak ada hal lain, perkenan saya tutup acara ini. Nanti kami akan informasikan untuk training berikutnya. Hari ini kami akan email ke Kisat gitu kan, kita usulkan minggu depan kita coba di tanggal 21 atau 22 gitu kan, 1 hari gitu kan. Tapi memang waktunya memang kita harus sore terus karena di mereka pagi kan waktunya. Demikian, terima kasih arahan atas kehadirannya sesuai dengan arahan Ibu Menteri. Mohon agar ini dipelajari dengan betul dan masing-masing agar memaksimalkan program ini dan training ini menjadi bagian yang sangat penting untuk kita memahami secara bersama. Demikian, saya tutup dengan wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat sore.